My name is Rachel, and for as long as I can remember, I lived like a guest in my own home. My mother, Linda, ruled our suburban house like a monarch with a short temper and a long list of expectations. Her word wasn't just law, it was scripture. She measured worth in obedience and usefulness, and if you weren't feeding her ego or her bank account, you were failing. Growing up, I learned to stay small. Good grades weren't praised, they were required. College, a given, but only if I pursued the major she handpicked. Even when I landed my first internship at 16, her only reaction was, "Guess you can start paying rent now." At the time, I laughed. I didn't know she wasn't joking. By the time I turned 22, I was still under her roof. I worked full-time as a software engineer, saving every penny in hopes of affording a place of my own. Rent in our area was brutal, and I just needed a few more months. That's what I told myself. But my mother had other plans. One night, without warning, she brought it up over dinner, her voice sharp like the edge of a blade. "You're earning now. Time to contribute." I nodded, expecting something fair. A grocery run, maybe. Instead, she wanted me to take over her car loan. Her car, not mine. Then it was groceries. Then my brother Eli's tuition. At first, I thought she was joking. She wasn't. When I said no, offering instead to help with basic expenses, she exploded. Called me selfish, ungrateful. My father, Mark, tried to step in, but his words barely reached her. Then came the night that changed everything. We were sitting at the dinner table, tension thick like storm clouds. Without warning, she looked at me and hissed, "How can you be such a disappointment?" I set down my fork. I could have fought back. I could have defended myself. Instead, I smiled, calm, quiet, and whispered, "You know better than anyone." That was the spark. She slammed her hand on the table and ordered me to get out. "Now," my father protested. Eli shouted, but I didn't wait. I packed one bag, walked out the front door, and before I even reached my car, I pulled out my phone and canceled everything. The grocery payments, the tuition transfer, even the shared auto pay account. The strings she used to control me, cut. And I knew this was only the beginning. The apartment was small. It wasn't much, just a single bedroom tucked above a noisy laundromat with a flickering hallway light, but it was mine. For the first time in my life, I woke up without walking on eggshells. No one asked what time I'd be home, what I was wearing, or how much money I had in my bank account. The silence was unfamiliar, but comforting. 3 days after I moved in, I was still getting used to it when I heard someone banging on my door like a battering ram. Boom, boom, boom. I already knew who it was. I peeked through the peephole, red-faced, jaw clenched. It was my mother, Linda, flanked by my dad and my brother, Eli, both looking like they'd been dragged along. "Open the door, Rachel," she shouted. "You think you're clever? Canceling everything? Your brother needs that tuition. We need groceries." Her voice echoed down the hallway, sharp and loud enough for my neighbors to hear. I cracked the door, just enough to speak. "No, what you need is to take care of your own bills. You live under my roof. You help." I didn't flinch. "I don't live under your roof anymore." She tried to push the door open. I braced my shoulder against it. For a second, I thought she'd force her way in. But then, I saw movement behind her. Dad and Eli. They looked different. My mom was still shouting, but they were silent. Then Eli stepped forward, a stack of envelopes in hand. He shoved them into Linda's chest. "Here," he said flatly. "Since Rachel's the reason we're all suffering, we figured you'd want to handle these." They were all addressed to her. Credit cards, car loan, late fees, notices, the unpaid weight of her demands. She scoffed and let them fall to the floor. But she didn't say another word. I could see something flicker in her face, fear, maybe, or the first glimpse of loss of control. My father crossed his arms. "You said we didn't need Rachel. Prove it." She turned, stormed down the hallway in silence. No grand speech, no guilt trip, just the hollow sound of heels retreating. I stood there, stunned. Dad let out a quiet breath. Eli stepped in and hugged me. "She's losing it," he whispered. And for the first time, I think Dad sees it. I opened the door wider. "Do you want to come in?" They did, and for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like I was alone anymore. They sat on my worn-down couch. My dad looked around like he was stepping into my life for the first time. Eli pulled his knees to his chest, glancing at my bookshelf like it was a museum. Then Dad spoke. "She's desperate, Rachel." I frowned. "Why?" He pulled out a folded bank statement and placed it on the table. $346.12. That's all she had left. She was broke. Credit cards maxed. Loans hidden. She hadn't told anyone. Not even him. I sat back. the pieces falling into place. This wasn't about me. It was about money, power, control. Eli swiped through his phone and held up a screen. A real estate listing. It was our house. She put it on the market last week. Didn't tell Dad. Or me. I swallowed hard. Linda wasn't just selfish. She was sinking. And she didn't care who she took down with her. Then Dad said the words I never thought I'd hear from him. I think I'm leaving her. It should have felt like relief, but instead, it felt like the ground had shifted under my feet. Everything I knew about my family was unraveling, and somehow I'd become the one holding the threads. If you'd asked me then, I would have said the worst was behind us. We weren't exactly celebrating. My studio was cramped and chaotic. My dad and brother taking turns on the couch and the floor like rotating guests at a hostel, but for the first time in my adult life, I felt something close to control. It was fragile, messy, but it was ours. We stacked up boxes like nightstands, used pizza boxes as plates, and made jokes about whose socks were on whose charger. Eli started calling our place the Freedom Bunker, which made me laugh every time, even though we barely had room to stretch. But the quiet never lasts long when you're running from a storm. The first sign came with a text from my mom. "You'll regret this." That was all it said. No name, no punctuation, just a threat folded in digital silence. I didn't reply. 2 days later, she showed up. I wasn't home. Eli was. I found him perched on the kitchen counter, gripping a small pink canister like it was a grenade. His expression was calm, but his eyes were lit with the kind of fire I hadn't seen since he was a kid sticking up for me on the playground. "She tried to come in," he said. Mom had come pounding on the door like a landlord with eviction papers. She shouted, cursed, demanded to see my father. Eli refused to let her in. She stood outside yelling for 20 minutes until a neighbor called the cops. By the time they arrived, she was gone. My dad just sat at the kitchen table rubbing his temples. She thought we'd come crawling back by now, but we hadn't, and that scared her more than anything. She wasn't used to losing. That week, I started sleeping with my phone under my pillow, not out of fear, out of habit, out of readiness. Then one night, near midnight, I heard it. Boom, boom, boom. The door shook in its frame. I checked the peephole Linda again, but this time, she looked different, unhinged. Her hair was wild, her cheeks flushed. She was swaying, barely able to stand, drunk. I left the chain lock on and cracked the door. "Go home." She leaned forward, slurring. "Where's your father?" "Asleep." She laughed an ugly, bitter sound. "Asleep in my daughter's apartment, like a stray dog." I gritted my teeth, but I didn't respond. Suddenly, my father appeared behind me, drawn by the noise. "Go home, Linda." For the first time, she hesitated. Her eyes narrowed like she didn't recognize him. "Don't do this," she whispered. "I already did," he said. There was a silence so heavy I could feel it pressing down on the hallway. Then her voice twisted into something darker. "You think you've won, Rachel?" I didn't answer. She staggered back, muttering something I couldn't quite hear, then vanished into the stairwell. We locked the door. My hands were shaking. "That was the first time I ever told her no," my dad murmured. But I knew it wouldn't be the last time we saw her. The next morning, everything was still. Too still. No banging, no messages, no new surprises, until I checked my bank account. Balance, $0.0. I stared at the screen, refreshed it, closed the app, reopened it. Still zero. Every cent I'd saved, gone. I frantically scrolled through the transaction history and found it a full transfer to my mother's account. I called the bank. After a long robotic wait, the rep came back. It was authorized via a shared account. I blinked. What shared account? The joint account from when you were 17. Still active. She's listed as a co-owner. I felt cold, heavy. I had forgotten it even existed, but she hadn't. And she'd waited until just the right moment to wipe me out. I stormed into the living room. She drained my account. Dad looked stunned. Eli cursed under his breath. "She's trying to force you back," my father said quietly. "She thinks if she cuts off everything, you'll come home." "She doesn't understand," I said. "I'd rather be broke and free than rich and controlled." I grabbed my keys. "Where are you going?" Eli asked. "To get my money back." Her door creaked open like it was scared of what was coming. She stood there, smug, like a spider who'd finally caught her prey. Well, Rachel finally came home. I didn't even wait. I walked past her into the house. "Give me Maya money." She shut the door behind me. "It's already gone," she shrugged. I turned slowly. You stole from me. It was a shared account. Technically, I didn't steal anything. I pulled out my phone. Then I'll report it as fraud. The smirk disappeared from her face. You wouldn't. I started dialing. She lunged forward and grabbed my arm. Don't be stupid. I shook her off. You did this to yourself. She shoved me toward the door. I stumbled, caught myself, and walked out. An hour later, the bank flagged the transaction as suspicious. They froze it, promised to reverse it. Her little heist had failed. I told Eli and Dad. We didn't celebrate. We just waited. Because when people like my mother lose power, they don't go quietly. They retaliate. And she did. The next morning, my car was gone. At first, I thought it had been towed, but I had a valid permit. No tickets, no violations. I opened my GPS tracker app. Months ago, I had installed it after a coworker's car got stolen. The dot blinked back at me. My car was parked right in front of her house. I laughed. It wasn't even shock anymore, just a quiet, exhausted kind of anger. I called the police. My mother stole my car, I said. It's registered to me. I have the title, and I know exactly where it is. An officer was dispatched. An hour later, I got the call. Your vehicle has been located. She won't give up the keys, but legally, the car is yours. We're arranging for it to be towed. I drove straight there. 2 squad cars sat out front. My car rested peacefully in the driveway like nothing had happened. My mother stood on the porch, arms crossed. You called the cops on your own mother? You stole my car. I borrowed it. You don't borrow something by sneaking into a parking lot and driving off without asking. You think you've won? She spat. I didn't respond. As the tow truck hooked my car, she screamed at the sky, but her voice meant nothing now. Not to me, not to the law, not to anyone. Too still. No calls, no texts, no knocks at the door in the middle of the night. Even my email was quiet. It was the kind of silence you don't trust, the kind that hides beneath it a deeper kind of storm. But I was hopeful. Maybe the cops towing my car from her driveway had sent the message. Maybe she was finally backing off. Spoiler, she wasn't. The next wave came not with noise, but through numbers. My phone buzzed early one morning, a notification from my credit monitoring app. A new account has been opened in your name. My breath caught. I hadn't opened anything. I scrambled out of bed and logged into my credit report. 2 new cards, 1 personal loan application, all of them unauthorized, all of them tied to my social security number. She was stealing my identity now. I froze, hands hovering above the keyboard, trying to process what I was looking at. The woman who raised me, fed me, made my lunches, and braided my hair before school had now moved from emotional manipulation to straight-up financial fraud. And it wasn't subtle. These weren't old leftover accounts or forgotten cosigns. These were new, fresh, recent. I called the bank first, then the loan provider, then the police. Each time, I repeated the same sentence like a script. My mother is using my identity to open credit accounts. I did not authorize them. I have proof. I filed a fraud report with the FTC. And while all that was unfolding, I called my lawyer. Yes, I had a lawyer now. Not because I wanted one, because she left me no choice. We're not just dealing with emotional abuse anymore, he said after I sent him everything. This is identity theft. You have a strong civil case. I nodded. Good, because I want to sue her. He didn't even blink. Let's file. The moment I served her the lawsuit papers, she lost it. She showed up again this time, at my work. I was eating lunch in the break room when one of my coworkers popped their head in, looking confused. Hey, there's a woman out front asking for you. I walked out to the lobby, and there she was, standing in the middle of the tile floor like she owned the place. You sued me? She shrieked the second she saw me. You ungrateful little. I didn't give her the satisfaction of a reaction. You need to leave, I said, calm but firm. I'm your mother, and I'm your victim. Get out before I call security. My boss walked out at that exact moment. He looked at me, then at her, then slowly stepped in between us. MAAM, you'll have to leave. Now. She didn't resist. She just stared at me, like she didn't recognize who I was anymore. Maybe she didn't. The girl who once cowered in her kitchen was gone. The court date came faster than I expected. I had police reports, account histories, signed fraud affidavits, even texts from her where she half admitted to opening the loan. She had nothing. But still, she walked into that courtroom with her chin high, playing the victim like she always had. "She's trying to destroy me," she told the judge. "I'm her mother. I was just trying to help the family." She misunderstood. Her lawyer tried to downplay it all: miscommunication, financial confusion, a family matter. They leaned hard on the emotional daughter, exaggerating things angle. But it didn't work. The judge reviewed everything meticulously. He asked questions. He read her bank transfers. He even referenced the previous police report about the stolen car. Then, in a clear, even voice, he issued the ruling: "Miss Linda Harper, this court finds you liable for identity theft, bank fraud, and unauthorized use of joint accounts. Furthermore, given the pattern of behavior, we're imposing a civil judgment in favor of the plaintiff." I won. But that wasn't the end. The judge leaned forward, eyeing my mother like a misbehaving student caught cheating on an exam. "Given your lack of remorse and continued efforts to contact the plaintiff, this court orders 1 year of home confinement." I blinked. Home confinement. She wasn't going to jail, but she wasn't going anywhere either. No shopping trips, no social club lunches, no surprise visits. She would be monitored 24/7. Electronic ankle bracelet, movement tracking, the whole package. She gasped, literally gasped. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. The judge added, "Given the need for supervision and her prior inability to adhere to court orders, a guardian must reside in the home to ensure compliance." I looked up, heart skipping. And who volunteered? My grandfather, her own father, George. When I saw his name on the court document, I almost laughed. He had always been the one person she couldn't manipulate, the one man she couldn't bulldoze. When I called him later to thank him, he chuckled softly. "Rachel, don't worry about it. I've always wanted to watch her squirm." The fallout was instant. Her social circle scattered. Her church group paused her leadership role. Neighbors whispered. Old friends stopped texting. And there she was, trapped inside her own house, with the man who raised her keeping the remote and the rules. Meanwhile, I moved on. I got promoted at work. We upgraded from the studio to a 2-bedroom in a better neighborhood. Eli got his own room. My dad took over the lease and helped with groceries. I didn't mind supporting them now because it wasn't forced. It was my choice, and that changed everything. One night, we were sitting on the floor of the new apartment, surrounded by open boxes and takeout containers, when Eli looked at me and said, "You did it." I smiled, not because I'd won, but because I was finally, completely free. If there's one thing no one tells you about peace, it's how quiet it is. Not just the lack of noise, but the absence of that constant, vibrating tension beneath your skin. The kind you get used to when you live for too long under someone else's rules. The kind you mistake for normal. But now, my life hums with a different rhythm. The new apartment is modest, but it feels like a cathedral compared to the shoebox studio we used to share. Eli has a real bed now, not a couch with a blanket that never quite covered his feet. My dad's got a little reading chair by the window, where he reads detective novels and grumbles about bad plot twists. And I've got a door I can close, and no one bangs on it. We live quietly and freely, and that would have been enough. But then one night, the phone rang. It was my grandfather, George. I hadn't heard from him in a few weeks, not since he moved into Linda's house to oversee her court-mandated confinement. I braced myself, unsure what to expect. Another complaint? A demand? A problem? But the moment I picked up, I heard it. Laughter. His deep, raspy, unfiltered laughter that made me sit up straight. "Rachel," he wheezed. "You should see her. She's absolutely miserable." I blinked. "Wait, what?" "She's pacing the yard like a caged tiger. Keeps trying to open the gate even though she knows she can't leave. Tried to sneak a wine delivery through the back window. I confiscated it. I couldn't help it." I laughed. The image was too perfect. My mother, who once dictated every aspect of my life, now trapped in her own kingdom, with her father as the self-appointed warden. "I even take the TV remote when she gets mouthy," he added. "She tried to argue I was violating her rights. I told her the judge said otherwise." I pressed my palm to my mouth, trying to hold in a full-on snort. "You're enjoying this," I said. "Damn right I am." That call stayed with me for days. Not because I wanted to revel in her downfall, not exactly, but because it felt like justice. Not revenge, not punishment. Balance. The scales tipping. Finally, after years of her leaning on everyone else's shoulders, time passed. Seasons changed. Eli went back to school. Dad started part-time bookkeeping work. I picked up a freelance coding contract, and started saving for a vacation, our first one ever as a family, without guilt or permission or manipulation. And then, one rainy Saturday morning, I got a letter, a real one, in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It was from her. I sat on the couch for 20 minutes just holding it. It wasn't long, just 2 paragraphs. Rachel, you've made your point. I hope you're happy. What you've done has torn this family apart. You've humiliated me, and I don't even know who you are anymore. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe I pushed too hard. But someday, you'll understand what it means to carry the weight of a family. And maybe you'll feel sorry for what you've done. I don't expect a reply. Mom, no apology. No ownership. Just veiled guilt and resentment. Gift wrapped in passive aggression. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. I didn't burn it. I didn't tear it up. I just placed it in a drawer and left it there, like a fossil from another life, because I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was just done. One evening not long after, Eli and I sat on the balcony watching the sun melt into the rooftops. We'd just finished dinner, nothing fancy, just frozen pizza and soda, but we ate it laughing so hard. I choked on a pepperoni at one point. He was scrolling through his phone, smirking. You know, people still talk about her at school? Seriously? Apparently someone made a meme about her ankle monitor, Linda the Leashed. It's viral in one of the student subreddits. I stared at him. That's terrible. I know. We both burst out laughing. Dad poked his head out, a crossword book in one hand. Anyone know a 6-letter word for poetic justice? Eli grinned. Rachel. Hey, kidding, he said. Kind of. The wind shifted. Somewhere in the distance, someone was playing an old jazz record out their window. It floated through the dusk like a blessing. I leaned back, staring at the sky. You know, I said softly, I used to think freedom was something dramatic, like quitting your job or running away. But sometimes it's just a quiet apartment, a paid bill, a morning where no one yells your name. Eli nodded. It's peace. Exactly. My mom's confinement eventually ended. She's still in that house, though, alone. Most of her friends never came back. Her reputation's been scorched. George eventually moved out and returned to Florida, leaving behind a stack of unpaid cable bills and a smug smile. He sent me a postcard. She still thinks she did nothing wrong. Must be exhausting. And me, I'm still here, still choosing my life, still choosing who gets to be in it. I don't wish her harm, but I don't miss her either. And if she ever wonders what became of the daughter she tried to control, I hope she realizes I didn't disappear. I just became someone she couldn't cage. Story 2. It's weird how you can spend years thinking you know someone, only to realize you were just a placeholder in their story. That realization hit me like a freight train the night I ended my engagement. My name's Aaron. I'm 27, and until recently, I was engaged to a woman named Rachel. She's 30. We'd been together 5 years. And just 3 weeks ago, I finally proposed. I'd spent months saving to give her the kind of wedding she dreamed about: rustic vineyard, fairy lights, the whole Pinterest vision. She said yes with tears in her eyes. I was sure we were solid. Then came the guest list. We were sitting in our living room, laptops open, tossing names into a shared Google sheet. I asked if she wanted to invite Leo, her best friend from college. He lives out of state, but they've been friends for over a decade. She always said he was like a brother. So yeah, I figured he'd be on the list. I even offered to cover his flight and hotel. She hesitated, then flat out said no. It'd just be too much to coordinate, she said. I want the wedding to feel intimate, more of a family thing, which would have made sense, except she used to refer to Leo as family all the time. Holidays, birthdays, late-night phone calls. When she was stressed, he was always in the mix. So I gently pushed, saying it might be worth the effort for someone that important to her. That's when she blurted it out. I haven't told him we're engaged. Silence. My stomach twisted. Wait, what? She just shut down. No explanation, no follow-up. She grabbed her phone, muttered something about being tired, and went to bed. I stayed up, staring at the dark TV screen like it had answers. It's not that I was threatened by Leo, okay, maybe a little. Years ago, he'd confessed feelings for her. She turned him down, or so she told me, but their friendship always had this odd tone to it, almost romantic in a weird, virtual way. She used to joke that they were married in World of Warcraft. Their avatars wore matching armor sets and role-played as a couple in-game. Cringy? Maybe. But it always felt like he was more than just a friend. Even her ex before me once told me that Leo felt like a plan B she never let go of. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I asked again why hadn't she told him. She dodged. I asked if she was still emotionally tied to him. She denied it, but wouldn't explain why the guy she called her rock didn't know about one of the biggest milestones of her life. Eventually, I lost it. If you're not planning to tell him, I said, you might as well consider yourself single. Petty? Maybe, but I felt like I was being played. That's when she did something so cold it still plays on repeat in my head. She grabbed her phone, opened a text thread with him, typed out, "Hey, just so you know, I was engaged but not anymore," then hit send, right in front of me. I couldn't even speak, just told her to pack her stuff and leave my house. That's how 5 years ended over one message. She's been calling ever since. I haven't picked up, but she got through to my mom, who then called me screaming about how I was overreacting. You don't throw away a relationship over a text. But it wasn't about the text. It was about the lies she kept alive, the intimacy she shared with someone else, emotional, digital, whatever. It was real enough to hurt. And yeah, maybe I'm not blameless, but I was never dishonest. Let me rewind a bit. I own the house we lived in, bought it a year before we started dating. She moved in 2 years ago, when her job transferred her close to my area. I work in it, and mostly from home, so it made sense. I even bought her a car, a beat-up 2015 Versa. Nothing flashy, but reliable. Or so I thought, until she rear-ended someone twice. She didn't make much, but I didn't mind. I saw us as a team. I paid the bills. She handled other things. We worked. Until we didn't. I agreed to meet her the day after the breakup. Public place coffee shop. She thought we were meeting to talk things out. I had other plans. As soon as we sat, I asked to see her texts with Leo. She froze. I deleted them, she said. Let me see your phone anyway. She started crying. Ugly crying. It took 20 minutes and a very uncomfortable barista asking if she was okay before she handed it over. No cheating, no sexts, but enough to break me anyway. Message after message where they trashed me. My hobbies, wrestling, gaming, even my choice of cologne. She told him I had been struggling to perform in bed since my dad passed away. Said she felt stuck with me. She'd once told me I could be her home, but apparently she felt caged. I gave the phone back without a word. She asked, "Don't you ever vent about me to your friends?" "No," I said. "I don't talk about the person I love behind their back." I asked for the ring. She gave it to me with shaking hands, and I walked out. Her mom called the next day. She offered to pick up her daughter's stuff. We talked. She didn't ask questions, just said, "I get it." She was kind. Too kind, really. And in that moment, I realized I would miss her the most. As for my own mom, I blocked her. She never took my side anyway. The night I came home, I poured a drink, turned on Monday Night Raw, and stared at the TV in silence. That's when it finally hit me. I wasn't just grieving a relationship. I was grieving a version of my life that never existed. I had 2 weeks of PTO left. I planned to spend them drinking cheap whiskey, modding my gaming console, and maybe, just maybe, starting to remember who I was before I let someone else define me. The day after I gave her the ring back, my place felt hollow, not just quiet, empty in a way that noise couldn't fill. The bed still smelled like her shampoo. The kitchen still had her favorite tea bag sitting in the cabinet, and I hated how my heart still flinched when I walked past the bathroom and saw her bobby pins on the counter. It's the little things that hit the hardest. Always the damn little things. Her mom came by later that week to pick up her stuff. We ended up talking for hours. Honestly, it felt more like therapy than any actual therapy I've ever had. I cried. She hugged me. We laughed about how bad her daughter was at cooking, and she told me I had always felt like family to them. Before she left, she looked me in the eye and asked, "Do you want to know how she's doing?" I didn't say anything, just nodded. She's trying to act like she's fine, but I know my daughter. She's not. I didn't respond to that either. I just watched her drive off, her trunk full of the life. I thought I was building with someone who would stick around. I kept the car. Well, sort of. Her mom practically demanded I take it back. Said Rachel wouldn't be able to maintain it anyway. I planned to sell it, but for now, it sat in my driveway like a forgotten piece of bad history. And yeah, for the record, the car was garbage. A 2015 Nissan Versa that sounded like a blender full of loose screws. She'd rear-ended people twice in it. I don't even know how it still ran. I spent the next few days gaming, drinking, and watching, wrestling like it was my full-time job. Weird thing was, I started feeling more like myself again. The version of me that cried during Life is Strange and Red Dead Redemption 2. The guy who felt things deeply, even if people judged him for it. I liked that guy. I missed him. I got a lot of DMs after my original post blew up, some from strangers who related, others just offering a virtual beer. One guy even sent me a playlist labeled songs to listen to after cutting off emotionally manipulative women. Banger playlist, by the way. There were also people asking about what exactly pushed me over the edge. I get it. It wasn't some massive cheating scandal. No secret baby. No double life. Just a slow, grinding kind of betrayal. Emotional neglect that didn't scream in your face, but whispered behind your back. See, it wasn't just the messages to Leo. It was how she talked about me. Like I was boring, disposable, less than. That stuff stays with you, deeper than any physical betrayal. And the thing is, I've been trying. I supported her financially, emotionally, practically. I paid for the house, the bills, her car. I gave her stability when her job paid peanuts and her commute was draining her soul. I gave her everything I could. What did I get in return? A fiancé who'd rather vent to another man than talk to me. And to those who messaged me asking if I'd ever let her explain, yes, I did. That day in the coffee shop, she had every chance to tell her side. Instead, she cried, made excuses, and said Leo was like a therapist. That's the thing though. I didn't need a therapist in my relationship. I needed a partner. Some people suggested I get the ring back. Funny enough, I already did. Didn't even ask twice. It's sitting in a drawer now, right next to a copy of Uncharted 4 and a photo strip of us at a fair. One day I'll throw them all out. Just not yet. Time passed. Slowly at first, then all at once. I started hitting the gym again, picked up a new hobby modding old consoles, bought a secondhand Switch, and turned it into a Frankenstein of RGB lights and retro skins. Even modded mine to run old PSP games. Sorry, Nintendo. I tried not to think about her too much. Some days I succeeded, other days I didn't. Then came a phone call, her mom again, checking in. We'd built this strange, warm bond that somehow survived the fallout. After some small talk, she asked if I wanted to spend Christmas at her house. I hesitated. Is Rachel going to be there? No, she said. She's spending it with Leo. They're kind of dating now. That hit me harder than I expected. It's not like I wanted her back. I didn't. But hearing that she'd moved on that fast, especially with him, felt like swallowing a rock. Maybe it was ego. Maybe it was the leftover grief, but damn, it stung. I thanked her and said I'd think about it. Truth is, I knew I wasn't going. I didn't want to sit at a table surrounded by memories and polite smiles. I wanted to heal, for real this time. So I stayed home, ordered takeout, watched Die Hard because yes, it's a Christmas movie, and cried a little during the part where John McClane talks to his wife over the radio. Yeah, I'm that guy. Later that week, I made a decision. Instead of stewing in what-ifs, I messaged my aunt in Brazil, my dad's sister. We hadn't talked in years, but I wanted to reconnect with that side of my family. My dad died 6 months ago, and part of me felt like I'd lost more than just him. I lost my roots. She responded within minutes, excited, warm, full of life, said she'd love for me to visit next year. So now I have a new goal: save up, learn some proper Portuguese, and take a trip that's long overdue. Let me tell you, it feels good to look forward to something again. But fate has a way of sneaking up on you. Just when I thought things were settling, something unexpected happened at work. So here's where the story takes a turn I didn't see coming. My job switched things up mid-December. They announced that remote workers like me would need to come into the office at least 3 times a week. Not ideal, but I rolled with it. Figured it would be good to get out of the house anyway, be around people again. Enter Jackie. She's 22, started at the company a few weeks earlier. We'd chatted a few times on Slack before the office change. Mostly work stuff, quick replies, emojis, nothing serious. But once we started crossing paths in person, she became, well, noticeable. Not in a loud, look at me way, more like this soft, intentional presence. She'd time her lunch breaks with mine, start walking into meetings when I did. She even asked to switch her in-office days, to match mine Monday, Wednesday, Friday. At first, I thought I was reading too much into it. Maybe she was just being friendly. Then came the group dinners. Twice, she invited me out, saying other coworkers were coming. Both times, they all bailed last minute. Just the two of us, sharing food, talking about everything from work to childhood TV shows. She laughed at all my bad jokes, like, really laughed. And she touched my arm a lot. You start noticing stuff like that when you've been in a relationship where affection felt rationed. Word got around. People started whispering whispering that we were dating. It didn't help that HR called us in to ask if there was a relationship that needed disclosing. Jackie just smiled and said, "Nope, we're just good friends." She said it casually, but something about the way she looked at me afterward stuck in my head. And then came the invite. One night, out of nowhere, she texted, "Hey, wanna come over tonight? I've got wine and I'm forcing myself to watch Singles Inferno. I need emotional support. I don't even like reality shows." But I said yes anyway. Maybe part of me was just lonely. Maybe part of me wanted to feel wanted again. But mostly, I just wanted to be around someone who didn't make me feel like I was a backup plan. I showed up a little after 7. She opened the door and immediately said, "You smell amazing." That made me laugh. She had pizza waiting, wine poured, and the dumb show already playing on her TV. We didn't even pay attention to the show. We made fun of it, passed the bottle back and forth, and just talked. It was easy, natural, the kind of vibe that feels rare, like you're safe just being yourself. Then she got quiet. "I have to tell you something," she said, suddenly nervous. "I've been trying to figure out how to say it. You're hard to read." I didn't say anything. I just looked at her, and she leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't dramatic. No swelling music, no fireworks. Just her, soft and close, heart beating fast like mine. And it felt good, really good. We didn't rush anything after that. Okay, we did get a little intimate that night, but we stayed up until almost sunrise talking. No pressure, no expectations, just two people figuring each other out. She told me about those dinners, how the first time she really did invite others, and they canceled. But by the second one, she left them out on purpose. Said it was her way of trying to spend time with me without freaking herself out. She liked me, had for a while, thought the first wouldn't notice or wouldn't feel the same. And yeah, I told her the truth. I liked her too, but I was still healing, still carrying some weight I didn't fully understand yet. She smiled and said, "We don't have to rush. Just let it be what it is." I can't explain what that meant to me, being with someone who didn't need me to be perfect, didn't compare me to anyone else, didn't make me feel like a placeholder. It's been a few weeks since then. We've gone on a few real dates, bowling, arcade bar, even went to a local wrestling show because, yes, Jackie started watching it just to have something to talk about with me. She pretends to like it, but I've caught her cheering a little too loudly not to believe it's real now. I still have days where I think about Rachel, not in a bitter way, just like you remember someone who used to mean something big in your life. Someone who taught you what you want and what you'll never settle for again. Jackie and I aren't rushing into anything. We're just learning each other. She lets me talk about my dad when I miss him. She doesn't flinch when I cry during dumb movie scenes. She doesn't mock me for liking indie games or owning 5 different controllers just for the vibe. And I let myself laugh again. Really laugh. The kind of laugh that fills your chest and pushes all the sadness out for a second. I'm not saying everything's fixed. Healing's not a straight line, but I can feel the weight lifting little by little. There's still grief, there's still guilt, but there's also hope now. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not just surviving, I'm living. Maybe this is what it feels like when life starts moving again, not all at once, not in some dramatic explosion, but like spring after a long winter. Quiet, slow, inevitable. Anyway, thanks for reading this far. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I'm walking toward it with open eyes and an open heart. And maybe that's enough for now.